Youth. We've been working very hard on this event for the last few months and are so excited to finally be doing it and to share our advice and input on certain things. With that, let's get started with our agenda for tonight. So for our agenda today, we will have a youth performance and the behind the scenes, which you guys just saw. We're gonna have a welcome ritual, youth panel, youth adult discussion, tips from youth, things to consider for group discussion, breakout rooms, and optimistic closure. So for our welcome ritual, what image best describes how you're feeling about being here today? So there's gonna be a poll that's gonna go out and then you guys can choose what image you guys can closely relate to. I see there's quite a few people picking 1. There's quite a few people picking 6. The poll is going to stay on for about 20 more seconds. Okay, so a lot of people picked 6. That makes me happy to see that you guys are excited for us youth to be sharing our thoughts and ideas with you. So now I'm going to hand it over to our project mentor, Sierra, to introduce herself.
Thanks, David. That was a great welcoming activity, and thank you all for participating in our welcoming ritual. My name is Sierra Fisher, and I've had the honor to work with the incredible Youth Leadership Council and Whole Child Connection here at Children's Institute. Our youth leaders have done an amazing job putting together tonight's convening, and we hope you all find wisdom, guidance, connection, and inspiration in the voices of our young people tonight. So the Youth Leadership Council has been meeting weekly for months to plan tonight's convening. Our youth leaders were intentional every step of the way in order to ensure that their voices are heard, but that you all leave tonight feeling inspired and motivated to continue this work in your spaces. So our youth leaders hope that tonight, during our time tonight, we will increase your understanding of practical ways to amplify youth voice and encourage youth leadership. There will be many opportunities tonight to hear from youth and adults firsthand on the power of youth voice and leadership. We also hope that you gain a greater awareness of redefining youth engagement from having power over youth to being in collaboration and connection with youth. That can exist in the classroom, in the home, or the community, and we'll be covering all of those areas tonight. And most of all, our youth leaders hope that you take away what you learned tonight and put it into action. They have been committed to keeping this conversation going, and we'll be hosting a follow-up event on June 3rd, featuring incredible community partners based on themes that the youth have selected regarding things that are impacting their lives today. So please be sure to check your emails for registration information. Now, this convening would not be possible without the incredible youth behind this project. Our Youth Leadership Council is made up of 9 dedicated leaders who, despite everything they are juggling, that is school and work, friends, family, their own wellness, they continue to show up and remain committed to elevating youth voice. So shout out to Ashton, Shai, Ariana, Javen, Anissa, Samantha, Asada, Jayla, and Hillary. Team, we are so proud of you all and thankful for all the work that you've done. Of course, we can't forget about our other sources of support behind this project, and we want to give a huge thank you to the adult leaders who've committed to supporting Youth Voice in all they do and their contributions to tonight's event. So thank you, Andrea Bertucci, Mr. Jordan, Jessica Norquist, Tremaine Harris, Brian Brooks, and of course, our great friends and partners at America's Promise Alliance. We are so thankful to you all for your endless support. Now, before we begin with tonight, we want to cover a couple of announcements. So tonight's convening will be recorded. So we ask that you please keep your video off and stay muted. This recording will be shared on multiple platforms, so please keep your cameras off. Otherwise, you're giving us permission to share your images via the recording. We will have an opportunity for breakout rooms later, which is going to be great. And at that time, you can unmute and take your cameras off to be in community with other participants. If you have any questions or comments, I'll be available throughout tonight, as well as my colleague Andrea. So we are here for support. Just contact us in the chat. Tonight's convening is most definitely a learning opportunity, and youth are our teachers. So be sure to complete the survey to receive confirmation for PTLE credits. The recording will be available in Spanish, and we will be sharing that via email soon. And as I shared earlier, our youth have committed to keeping this conversation going. So they will be facilitating a follow-up session on June 3rd. Keep an eye out for that email. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Jordan to introduce our incredible youth panel.
And if the maestro could unmute my camera, I would be happy to start. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope everybody's doing well. I'm excited to be a part of this opportunity. Okay, here we go. I can start my video now. I'm happy to have this opportunity to have this great discussion with our youth and adults that are here tonight. They have worked very hard on this, so we are not going to take any more time. I'd like to start with our panelists introducing themselves. And so this is the order we'll go in. I want to hear from Ashton, then Hillary, and then Samantha. Just introduce yourself. Give me your name, your age, and grade.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Ashton Hall. I am a 17 years old, a graduating senior of Fairport High School. And I'm so glad to be able to do this event with everyone and share our voices.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hillary. I am a senior at Word of Inquiry. I'm also 17 years old, and I am a graduating senior as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha, and I'm a freshman in high school.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to get started. So panelists, I'm going to ask a question, and I just want you to take your time and answer it. And we may, kind of ask some additional questions on each question. So we'll have a good time talking. So the first question is, why is elevating youth voice important to you? And we're going to stay in the same order. We're going to start with Ashton.
Right. So elevating youth voice is so important because it helps deconstruct, preconceived notions and ideas, how youth isn't capable of understanding what happens out in the real world. We're too young. There's no trials and tribulations that you weren't old enough to understand or old enough to even been through yet. And it helps give us a voice and a right to express our opinions and our freedoms of using our voice and be vocal about, different topics and social issues that happen. And it just gives us a place to put some sort of positivity and provide a focal point on what's happening around us and in our community.
Thank you, Ashton. So we'll go with Hillary next.
I feel like elevating youth voice is so important because I feel like in this generation, a lot of youth are shut down at a young age, whether it's because parents may feel or adults may feel like the students or the youth are coming off disrespectfully or rudely. And also, I just feel like if you give those youth a safe space where they can elevate their voice and just voice their opinions and how they feel, a lot of those youth will actually be able to speak up more. And that's why I just feel like elevating youth voice is so important.
Okay, thank you. Samantha, why is elevating youth voice important to you?
So youth are ambitious and naturally we want to learn and we want to grow and better ourselves and the world around us. So, and we are the future. We will be the future leaders. And so that's why it's so important to really nurture and grow from that passion and that long to learn. And there are thousands of youth out there.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I heard something from both Hillary and Ashton that I want to kind of follow up on. You guys mentioned something about age. You said that, you know, folks feel like you're maybe too young to have voice. Just tell me, how does that feel when adults kind of play that age card? We'll start with you, Hillary. How does that feel?
Sometimes it just makes me feel as if like my opinion or what I'm saying doesn't matter as much as versus what an adult is saying. I just feel like you're never too wise or you're never too old to learn more things. So you can actually learn a lot from a youth. You can learn a lot. Even like if you have a child, you can learn a lot from your child. You just have to be able to give them that type of space and that type of letting them be able to speak up for themselves.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you. Ashton, can you kind of respond to that?
Yeah, and just to add on to what Hillary says, you know, experience comes over time. It doesn't matter what age, and that attributes to having wisdom and knowledge as well. And just having to hear from a youth that has most likely or could have been through more, let's say, difficulties or problems for their own lifetime, no matter like how short it has been, could be as impactful or even more than what an adult may have went through. So having to hear from their side and give their opinion and able to tell them about their experiences and provide them some sort of insight so they can improve not only in mindset, but in the future as well is very important and should be taken into consideration.
Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, you know, and what I heard was you both talked about experiences that our youth have. They can have those experiences at any age. So Ashton, that's powerful. I certainly appreciate those answers. So we're going to go on to the next question, but you know, once again, I could stay there all day because y'all wisdom and that's one of the things that adults kind of hold on to is that because of their time on this planet, they're wise. But your answers showed the wisdom that youth have. So that was amazing. So our next question is, how can underrepresented voices be uplifted? And certainly we know that the youth voice is underrepresented at a lot of tables. But just speak to that whichever way you feel. And I'll repeat the question. How can underrepresented voices be uplifted? And this time we're going to go with Ashton and then Hillary again.
All right. So uplifting underrepresented voices, it can take as little to big contributions, you know, shout outs, having to do public speaking about it, just reaching a bigger and mass audience to little slight nudges of compliments or gratuity or just some type of recognition. But most importantly, and for one example, for instance, is Black History Month and how we set aside that as one major focal point that we like to focus on each year, and not how we should be able to like celebrate history from Black history, because that history spans a long range over time, and you can't just impact that much influence in 1 month and think you're going to get the whole prospect of everything. So that should be shown more love throughout each year, throughout every month, throughout every day, because there's so much to appreciate. And personally, for me, me being a graduated senior and attending North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, which is a historical Black college and university, it's so important to uplift colleges like that and show love, whether it be like a donation or a fund or a shout out, or just like putting it into a public eye where people can like really see the depth and the importance of how much it is like a safe haven for underrepresented voice, such as African Americans and the minority itself, the population, and how it's very important to bring light and a prospect to it.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I see how you slipped your school in there.
You have to shout out the school.
Yeah, man. Great shout out. I like how you're doing that. So Hillary, what do you think? How can we uplift underrepresented voices
we can uplift underrepresented voices. Just basically, I feel like just supporting one another, definitely supporting each other, even if like you know friends who may not feel like they're comfortable with speaking up, you can also be like that type of backbone and that support system for them, so they feel confident enough to want to speak up for themselves. Definitely, like first, personally, I believe that no matter like what your situation may be, you can always speak up. Your voice always matters. Um, and like basically also agreeing with Ashton, like going to like a HBCU college, that's like yes, period. Um, and but I'm kind of the opposite. I'm going to be attending Niagara University. And I feel like it's like a majority of white people that attend the school, predominant white school. So I'm a little afraid that my voice may not have that type of power or that type of, you know, the upliftment. But I guess that's just a part of like how it may be, but I have to also be that support system for myself, and as well as like whole child connection being that type of support system for me as well, so that I feel like my voice does matter in uplifting my own voice. I feel like I will have that type of underrepresented voice being uplifted there.
Yeah, and I would just say to you to really consider, like you're going on this campus, and you're right. I went to a school in the Midwest that you know, it was tough. I went to Kansas State University, and the number of African American students was very low, and I felt sometimes like my voice was lost. You know, so as you think about going off to college, you know, what would be ways that you could maybe band with other students, or you know, create a voice? You know, I don't know if you are up to the challenge tonight to brainstorm, but what do you think a way would be going off to college? Because often, you know, to our listeners, they forget that this is a challenge. Sometimes you go in these large organizations, or you know, there's a student that may have a unique or different background than the majority, and sometimes they have a little bit of fear. So just brainstorming with you, and any of the panelists can answer that question with Hillary. How do we go to a situation like that and maybe uplift your voice?
I could give an answer if anyone doesn't want to speak. So personally for me at my school, I'm one of the leaders in this club, and that's also a thing. You could also start clubs and organizations in college that is more has set upon inclusivity and just being, you know, more diverse. If able to, those who don't have a voice could be able to in that club. But personally for me at my high school, I'm a leader of a club that's a Dream Club. It's an acronym for demonstrating racial equality for all mankind. And that club is very set upon recognizing and addressing social injustices and racial issues in our country. And people of different, you know, whether you could be of the LGBTQ community or of the underrepresented voices and minority in the US could just join and have, or in our school primarily, could just join and have a talk and session about how they feel on current topics and how they feel about, you know, what's happening in our community or just in the nation in general. And things like that is very important to have, so you can have a safe space. Like you might have like a long day of feeling ignored or no voice if you go to college or high school that doesn't seem to fit like your preference or how you feel to others. And then you could go to this club at some point in this day or meet or congregate, and now you feel have a safe space, so you're able to breathe and, you know, talk how you want to and just, you know, express your emotions. So that's a way.
Yeah, Ashton, that's a great response. And you're right. It reminded me that I was a part of, we had a Black Student Union organization, and that was a way I was able to connect. So Hillary, I hope that helps. Do you have anything you want to add, Hillary, to that?
And definitely like what Ashton was saying about like joining those type of organizations. I feel like there are a lot of organized programs and definitely like community activities and organizations that you can join within your city, where you can actually, if you don't feel comfortable, I'm pretty sure like even your school environment and like your school, there's definitely teachers and definitely that type of support system that have your back behind those type of feelings that you may not feel comfortable enough.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys are way ahead of where I was at. I went to school and kind of got lost for a little bit because I didn't have that thought or reference point to understand how do I lift my voice. So, and as a part of this, we're going to go to the next question. So, Samantha, this question will start with you, and if someone else wants to kind of attack it as well, just holler and you can jump in. So, Samantha, how can you help your peers if they don't know how to use their voice? How do you get them to first recognize, hey, you have a voice, and then how do you get them to elevate that?
Yeah, so through my own experiences and taking action and going out there, and then spreading my experience, if I can do it, then youth can do it too. It's possible, and it's possible to just have a safe environment to share your voice and your perspectives and your viewpoints, and just uplift them and give them confidence, whether that be through social media or someone you know personally. There are many places such as Instagram, blogs, Twitter, to spread resources that could help and your experiences, and really just reassure them that, if you can do it, then they can do it too. And it's definitely possible. And there are definitely that resources out there. A personal story of mine is a few months ago, before joining the Youth Leadership Council, I went to my school counselor and I said, hey, I want to be more involved in my community and I want to work alongside amazing youth that share the same viewpoints as me and take this as a priority. And so he pointed me in the direction of the Youth Leadership Council, where I found the connection with America's Promise. And I found all of these different blogs made by youth themselves, them sharing their perspectives and with confidence and in a very intelligent way. And I was like, I want to be able to do that. That's so cool. And it really gave me the confidence and like, they did it, so I can do it too. So I signed up to be a part of the Youth Leadership Council. And now I'm here and I've been able to facilitate meetings and actually be a part of a blog, which really gave me confidence. And I'm happy to share that tonight.
Yeah, and I have a follow-up question, and any one of the panelists can answer. I often try and recruit students to be a part of organizations that lift up youth voice, and sometimes I have a challenge because I think maybe youth don't have the time, or maybe they don't feel comfortable, or they may even find it because it doesn't sound real exciting that they don't jump right in. For someone like yourself, how do you recruit more youth to be a part of these things so that they can have their voice lifted up? And that is really like a great question to help all our adults out, but particularly me. I'm being sneaky. I'm trying to get y'all to give me some help.
Yeah,
Anyone want to address that? Samantha, you want to start, or Hillary?
Sure. So just not giving up on them and really pushing them and reassuring them that it's possible, and finding their passion, something that they're not going to get tired of, and really finding resources and seeing what's the right fit, really just being there, and reassuring them that, their voice is heard and they matter, and it's important that they have that confidence, and yeah, just not leaving their side.
Yeah, thank you. I'm taking notes. So when y'all see me look down, I'm paying attention. I got that. One of my favorite terms is to find someone's passion. Thank you, Samantha. Ashton, Hillary, how do we get other students to lift their voice? How do we support it? How do we get your peers, your classmates, your friends to be active and lift their voice up?
So for anyone specifically, or just having to be truthfully honest, you could implement incentives or something that will be pushing them to join class. So what I mean by incentives, I mean by something that'll like push them to want to join, or something that's like you give them something and it'll like pull them or attract them into coming in the club. So for me, when I seen this organization specifically for their leadership, and you see the incentive of compensation with it, you're like, oh, great, I'll just join, I'll get the money and that's it. But like when you truly look past the money and you like get into it all, you see how like important it is and how like vital it is to like very be vocal about what you want to say and how you feel about certain situations or what's happening. And that like changes their mind or their like concept of what they're thinking, and it just like provides like a broader ideas for them and how to support youth voices and how to really get out there and spread light on issues that's happening youth wise. But yeah, incentives and like that, like compensation or having to add something that'll like pull them in or bring them in, that's like an eye catcher. So that's a good way to pulling youth.
Yeah, so I'm listening very carefully, and I'm taking good notes because I heard you say pull them in. I heard you say give them something, but then you touched on it. It's not just the money that adults can give students. It's the money may be, or whatever that may be, incentive is, but it's what you give beyond that is what I'm thinking. And then have something. I like that. So
yeah,
that's my notes from you, Ashton. Give, have, gotta give, gotta have something. Hillary, did you want to jump in on that question?
Oh, yes. And like just adding on what Ashton said about their incentives and just giving those students like that type of like, oh yeah, I want to join. Like, yeah, let me join this. And also I feel like if you also give those like I'm so sorry. And even what Samantha was saying about like just trying out the new programs and just knowing that your voice does matter. I also was brought into Whole Child Connection from a friend, like a very close friend. She actually told me about the program, and it was like, oh, that sounds very interesting. And like I joined it, and it's like, I love it. I'm gonna be honest, like I did not realize how much of a voice I had until I actually joined. And just to know that I'm so confident enough to speak up on issues like this, I feel like it's also a gift, but also something new for me.
Wow.
So
I can feel your strength. I can feel you. But once again, I think you all are hitting on some keys for adults. A flyer or letter or email doesn't pull students in. It's relationships, friends, having students be the ones that recruit and bring other students. And I think that's what I was hearing from you, Hillary. Samantha, this was your question. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to how we can lift up you voice your peers particularly?
Yeah, so with my peers, just find your passion and move forward with that. And don't be afraid to ask questions. And for adults, don't be afraid to listen and take action. Not only listen and go on with your life, but to also care about the student and not forget that they have a passion and they want to do something, and just to really uplift that.
Yeah, very cool. That I mean, like I said, once again, trying to release the adultism stuff that we do sometimes, to hear from you that we need to tap into that passion. That is powerful. So our next question, I'm going to give that to the whole panel, and let me see how we're going to roll this out. I tell you what, we're going to mix it up. We're going to start with Hillary first. We'll go to Samantha, and then Ashton, if you can follow up on this question. So the question is, how does elevating youth voice help adults? How does it help us do, all the things that we're trying to do in our schools, in our community, churches, businesses? How does elevating youth voice help adults? So, Hillary?
I feel like helping like the youth, elevating youth voice help adults. Like even like a school environment, I know there may be a lot of teachers, for example, that are on this Zoom meeting, who are actually gonna maybe I don't want to say you're gonna learn something, but hopefully you are gonna learn something, and you're gonna be able to contribute that into like how you teach your students and just understanding that your students does have a voice. And like for parents, I know for me, like I grew up in a Caribbean household, for example, and if you grew up in a Caribbean household, you know what I'm talking about. Your parents may feel like, oh yeah, you're being rude, you're being disrespectful, when the truth is you're not being rude at all. You're just trying to express how you feel, but some parents may feel like you're being rude or you're being smart, or so I feel like if you also have like an understanding on both sides as a child and also as a parent, and just understanding those roles, but also being able to communicate, you will be able to grow a stronger relationship between the two.
Thank you. I got a note. I'm coming back to you because you said something. I gotta come back to you. You said something good. I'm not even gonna go there right now. I'm gonna go there. So Ashton and Samantha, stay ready. You said this, and this is for a lot of adults on here. You said, you know, you come from a Caribbean household, and sometimes parents, adults, we get that whole, you know, if I could say this correct, we get in our feelings about our kids saying something smart or talking back. How do adults let that go? And why is it important for adults to let that go? And Ashton or Samantha, you could jump in on that question, and then we'll come back to you for the original question. Because I know a lot of adults have that challenge because, you know, it was different 70 years ago. It was different 100 years ago. It's different now. So how do adults get past being in their feelings when students are like lifting their voice up? What do y'all think? Go ahead, Hillary, if you got a response to that.
And your question is like, how do adults move past that?
Yeah. What would be your advice?
For example, like sometimes my mom actually, she takes in what I'm saying, but she's like, she still have like an attitude about it, like, okay, like I heard what you said, but like she'll take it in and then she'll kind of like get over her feelings. And then sometimes you do have those adults who they'll listen to you, they will want to hear what you're saying, and they'll kind of like help themselves with what you said, but also still keep that boundary between those two.
Wow, that's powerful. You know, I appreciate, and you give your mom a hug, because if she gets in her feelings, but she's still listening, I'm going to take a note from her, because I'm a dad and I'm an educator. So I'm going to try not to get in my feelings in the next couple of days. Anybody else want to address that, Samantha or Ashton, just about how adults get past that? You know, I'm an adult and you're not going to talk to me that way. You're going to listen, you're getting smart, or whatever that may be. Because I think sometimes adults do miss the message that our youth are extending because they want to hear it a certain way. Ashton, what advice do you have to adults to not get in their feelings?
And that's so hard to try to give adults advice, especially if it's been generational, how maybe their parents have not been taught to let anything slide, to be strict and stern about certain things. It's very hard to break something that's so like generationally passed down. So the best way to do it is to just talk with them. It's not, if I had died, but it's best to just talk with them and give them advice, or try to use some sort of options or different ways to resort to better ways of having to listening to your child. Or there's ways to do it, but it's a way of like consistency and proficiency to doing it. I couldn't specifically tell you because my parent personally isn't like that as much, since she's not, coming from a Caribbean household. She's very Caribbean influenced, by the music and everything. She's one of those moms, but she not coming from a Caribbean household. So it's hard for me to give my opinion on that. But I know there's ways to do it. And like, whether it be talking one-on-one or just having to give tips.
Awesome. Samantha, did you want to comment on that? Just about how we can prevent, or how adults could get out of their feelings. I guess that's how we term it for right now.
Yeah, so just to remember that if your child says something that shares their opinion, so just remember that that is their opinion and it does impact their future. So if you would want to educate them further, maybe you don't agree with something, to just keep your calm and talk to them. And if they get a little hyped up or something, keep your calm, because they will realize that you're calm, and so they'll calm down too. And to really just keep in mind that, again, that is their opinion and it will impact their future. So keeping your calm and sharing your opinion as well and exchanging knowledge really educates them on the topic and educates you on how they might be feeling. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. And I'm just gonna throw one thing in there. Adults, don't let other adults drive that either. We have like, I have my family members, and they're like, or why do you allow your boys to do or say or whatever that may be. But sometimes as adults we make the situation something that it shouldn't be. We should be listening even when our students and sons and daughters express passion. So a great answer, y'all. We run out of time, but we got to get back to Samantha and Ashton on the original question. Thank you, Hillary, for that. And that was kind of my direction, but Hillary, great comment. So once again, how can we elevate youth voice to help adults? That was the original question, Samantha and Ashton. How can elevating youth voice help us adults? So Samantha, we'll go to you now.
Yeah, so youth give a new perspective. Youth have experiences that maybe adults might not. Regardless of age, we all go through things. And so you guys can learn from each other and work alongside adults and just really exchange knowledge and help educate each other on something to create the best outcome on whatever it is that you might be doing. And an example of that would be the Youth Leadership Council. I know that I work alongside a lot of amazing youth, very intelligent, very open, and all of our opinions are taken into consideration. And we all have a voice, and we've all had, just a place to be confident in our own opinion. And another example of that would be in the classroom. I know that my school is very supportive on youth voice. And in English class, actually, we're always given a choice on what we might be, like if we want to read as a whole group while having an active conversation, or read independently. Maybe we're not having a very good day and we just kind of be in our own little space. And so we're given that option, and it creates just better outcomes, and the teacher is really communicative with us, or just communicates a lot.
Yeah, that very, very awesome response. Just working together and making decisions together, I think is a great opportunity to develop relationships, which is a part of why we're here, to talk about those relationships, but to lift up your voice, to collaborate and discuss decisions. So thank you, Samantha. So my man Ashton, how do we help youth by elevating your voice?
Yeah, by helping the youth or adults specifically, just helping youth. You could just have a common ground. You might not agree on the same topics, but having to share mutual, as they previously said, mutual wisdom or knowledge between each other just helps to keep a sort of balance between ideas, or just throwing out ideas or any, mindful hints of reminders of how to handle opinions or topics with a youth, or to adults on how to handle that towards youth would be good as well. For example, you could, with my mother, I have like a set list of what we should talk about each month, and we should have like a talk about something. So whether that be mental health, or like specifically how I'm doing and how she's doing, and how we could like get to a place to like, relief and breathe a little bit after being so busy doing what we're doing separately. And then we could have other months where we talk about serious topics or issues when it comes to, especially me being a graduating senior, and how I'm going out into the world and like, going to the next step, like, which is adulthood for me. It's very good to share ideas between each other and how one another can support each other so we could be where we're at. So it's important to like just be on top of communication with each other, and having that, that strict standard of being talkative to one another. So we have a same ideas.
Yeah, thank you, Ashton. That great response. I hope the adults heard really having those conversations and having topics, and sometimes you could plan a conversation. You could say, hey, we're going to talk about ABC. I think that helps develop those relationships and helps them grow. And I know a lot of adults on here are parents and educators. So thank you for that wisdom. I'm going to use that word on all three of y'all. Y'all drop some knowledge and some wisdom on us. I want to thank you all. Great conversation. Enjoyed it. And I think this is the end of this panel. And I hope everybody's throwing up some applause for you all. Keep doing the work. keep lifting up your voice and keep working with the adults that you're engaged with. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I think we're moving into the next panel. We have an adult youth panel coming up. And I think we want to start with some introductions. Can we have our youth panelists for our youth adult panelists introduce themselves? And here we'll roll in this order. My busy fella, Mr. Javen, awesome young man. I want him to go. If Shai could go second, and then if Asada could introduce herself, we'll roll in that order.
Okay, well, hello everyone. My name is Javen. I'm 16 years old and I'm a junior in high school. And I'm excited to be here today to give my advice and to learn from my peers. I'm here today with Ms. Northquist, who works in the RCSD and does wonderful things for youth in our community to uplift youth voice.
Thank you. And next up, I think we have Shai next.
Yeah, hi, my name is Cheyenne. I'm also a junior and I'm 17. I'm excited to be here, learn more and give little advice and just to talk about pretty much anything about with the youth and through the adults.
Awesome.
Hello, my name is Asada. I'm 18 and a freshman in college. I'm here today because I have been fortunate enough to have been given opportunities to raise my voice in the community since I was like 13, 14 years old. And unfortunately, a lot of youth in our community aren't aware of these opportunities. And my kind of ignorance and privilege didn't allow me to understand this until about like 2 years ago. So I'm here to share some knowledge. The person that I have with me today, that I brought with me today is Tremaine Harris, known in Rochester as Speedy. And I gained a very constructive relationship, mentor-mentee relationship with him through YVOV, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, which was previously talked about by Javen a little bit as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Asada. So for our wonderful adults, and I met Mr. Brooks and he was dropping nuggets on us in our meeting. So I'm excited to have this conversation because I know the other two adult panelists. But if I could have you in this order, just tell us why you're here. You could share, who or why, and just tell us why this topic is important to you. So we'll go in this order. We'll go with Mr. Brooks, Ms. Norquist, and Mr. Harris.
Well, how everybody doing? The reason it's important to me is with me being a father, I need to be able to at least set them on a path to make a change. So if they get exposure or a chance for somebody to listen, I think it's real important that I expose them to that. So that's the reason I'm here today.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Hi, everybody. Jess Norquist. I'm here representing the village that has surrounded Jay in his entire career, which I've just been a little piece of, and I'm so thankful for. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is I feel like in the city school district, there's a lot of adults who have a lot of opinions who think that we are trying to make change. And definitely is my work with the Rock Restorative Program, as well as now my work at Northeast High School, I'm seeing that unless change happens with youth voice present at the table, making all decisions, having input into all decisions, then there won't be a chance for transformation and we'll have a missed opportunity for shared learning. And so I just passionately feel youth need to be at the center of every decision, at the center of every conversation, especially in our school district.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Tremaine Harris, and for me, I've been working with youth since I was 16. And my whole career, just outside of work, has been mentoring in some shape or form. Like Asada said, it's you know, it doesn't stop once you get out of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. It actually increases because I'm more in your life at that point. You already gave me the permission, so I stay on the youth that I mentor, that I work with, and my passion is definitely seeing that aha moment in the youth when, you know, you're driving home a point and they might not get it first week, first month, or not even that year, but then they come back to you and say, thank you for that advice. I was able to get through this situation because of what you said. And those moments for me makes everything worth it. So thank you.
Thank you. And y'all already dropping nuggets all over the place. I'm gonna act as an echo machine a little bit tonight because I don't want the guests to miss, you know, these valuable nuggets that y'all are dropping on us. But, you know, I have a fond respect. I'm kind of like a groupie for Miss Norquist. She know it too. But she said all decisions, not some decisions, but adults don't. I don't know if y'all get that. All decisions. I'm gonna behave because I promised I would, but all decisions, I heard that. And Mr. Harris, my brother, we are brothers for sure, said pushing our youth. And then, Mr. Brooks is just the ultimate dad. I'm taking dad notes, Mr. Brooks. I got two at home that I might drop them at your place. I don't know, before it's over. We might need to come and get a lesson from you. So I'm excited. We have great youth and adults on this panel. So we're going to get right into the questions. So for our youth, how do adults show that they are listening and that they care about your voice? So once again, how do they show that they're paying attention, that they're listening? And more importantly, how do adults show that they care? And we'll roll in this order. We'll go with Shai, Javen, and Asada. We'll roll right in that order. Shai, Javen, Asada.
So I think adults can show is pretty much showing that they care, giving youth an opportunity to have a voice and get just a way to have an opinion, and asking us about certain events that we're going to be participating in, or certain just in all aspects, giving us chances to speak our minds, giving us a space or little clubs or stuff like that, just to be ourselves and be able to say what we're thinking.
Thank you. I know we got to stay in order, but I'm gonna just take a pause. I hope y'all heard her give, and we heard give in the first panel. Thank you. Next one.
Yeah, so for me, it's when adults are always there, when they show us that they're present, when we're in conversations and I genuinely feel like they're interested and invested in what I have to talk about or what I have to share. Like I said, being present, and when they want to make a change, and when they come to me and ask for my opinion on things.
Yeah, Javen, I'm gonna hold you there because we say when they're present, when they're listening, but can you just get into that a little bit deeper? How do adults really? I mean, what is that thing that lets you know that they're really listening?
For me, it's like when I kind of said it already, but when I feel in my heart that they genuinely care, I don't know how to explain it, but there's just a feeling when you know that someone is actually there for you and wants to see you succeed and want to hear what you have to say. And for adults, I think just trying to be more open to youth and trying to make sure that they see that you do care and that you want to be a part of every decision that they make.
Yeah, thank you. Asada?
So this was already a loaded answer for me, but Ashton inspired an answer for me to add. But I said listening fully and not being judgmental. I'm probably the least judgmental person that you'll meet. I like to crack jokes and all that stuff, but I don't like judgment. So I like to be respected in that same way. Exploring and respecting my opinion, along with like honoring it. So along with Javen, what Javen said, in the like, you can sense someone's like someone generally acknowledging what you're saying and having an interest. Yeah, and that was the last thing I was gonna say. We can tell when people are being genuine. We can take social cues. We're not dumb. We're humans and we understand the chemistry of the body and body language. So that's one thing that, well, those are a couple things. Then when Ashton was talking about incentives and compensation, now, my mom kind of instilled this into my brain. She was an educator and she's a super mom, but compensation shouldn't be an incentive. It should be mandatory. When you're picking brains of youth and you're using our knowledge and information from our databases, we should be getting just the compensation that y'all be getting as adults. So I think that that's another way to show actual genuine respect. As Ashton also stated, through this process, we've been told on multiple occasions that our time is valuable enough to be compensated for it, whether it's a stipend, whether it's a little gift card here or there, just to show that there is a general respect for what you have to say, other than taking it and calling it your own. So yeah.
Sada, you trying to make me act up tonight. That was a great response. All the responses were great from our panelists. And you know, I do want to touch on that, the compensation piece, because, you know, the old school adult thing was, oh, they should do it because it's going to make them a better person. Y'all forgive me, but I don't know a lot of adults that show up at events to work, that get paid to do stuff because it makes them a better person. You know, this is America we live in. It's a capitalist society. And I'm just gonna leave it there. Asada, you're gonna get me in trouble tonight. But I would just say to y'all, I hope y'all heard from the youth. Compensation is important. It doesn't have to be anything big or huge. And Asada, that is such great knowledge. You also mentioned culture and relatability, and our students need to know, and Javen mentioned it as well, that caring about me as a person is important, because culturally we understand we're from this community, and culturally knowing that you really deeply care is important to our students. It's important to people of color in general. I'm not gonna get into that lesson either, but I'm gonna keep the panel moving. I wanna ask Ms. Norquist and Mr. Harris this question. What do you do to create space for youth to be open and honest and share their voice? How do you do that safely, where they feel comfortable to do so? And we'll start with you, Mr. Harris.
All right, so I'll piggyback off of Asada when she mentioned that when the adults are around, it's the not being judgmental. And once you create, it's a phrase called psychological safety, where basically you're not afraid to ask questions of your boss or anyone that supervises you, or just a friend. You know, you feel safe in that environment. So once you let youth know that it's an open door policy, no matter how bad you might have thought you messed up, you can feel safe to come to me. And once you create that relationship, and you create that environment where no matter what happens, anything can be put on the table, and nothing will be shunned on, like, oh, I can't talk to you anymore, I can't mentor you, oh no, whatever you just did, that ends all of our relationship. No, it's supposed to be where we build upon that opportunity, where it might not have been a good thing, but you can turn something bad into good. It's a learning experience. And I tell my son all the time, it's a life lesson. Everything is a life lesson. I don't care what it is. You can learn from anything. So just again, reiterating that, do not be judgmental to the youth when you know, we mess up all the time. but we're held to a different standard, and I don't feel that should be the case. If we mess up, we should be held same way, you know, and the youth shouldn't judge us. So we have to learn, lead by example, you know.
Thank you. Ms. Norquist?
Yeah, I love that lead by example. One of the things that I always think about when I work with youth, if you can ask any youth or any adult who's worked with me in this district or even outside, they can tell you I'm often a bit of a hot mess, right? Because I've got lots of ideas and lots of brainstorms and lots of directions. I'm going 10 different ways. And so I really love being able to have students hold me accountable often or check me. That's been something that I found so valuable. And I think even just that space too, that you were just talking about with the being able to hold a space where you can not be judgmental and where you can be your authentic, vulnerable self with them, right? Where you're gracious and you're humble and you make mistakes and you apologize. And even yesterday, I can think of a situation. We have our student voice committees have been working on this really big project. And yesterday was this big day that we were going to do all this work together. And I pulled up at one of my students' house and my car completely stopped and oil just started flowing out of the bottom of it. And I had this moment of like, oh, you know, that everything's going to go wrong and I'm panicking. And the students were just like, Miss, we got this. I'm going to call her, another student leader. She's going to run it for you. We'll sit here. You call a tow truck, you know, and so just being able to be in a space where often if we need taken care of too as adults, or we're open to having feelings and emotions, but then also open to sharing them and sharing them with each other and learning together. Really, it's just this whole idea of really grounding ourselves, I think, when we work with youth and the values and our identity and what we want to do and what they want to do to be able, I feel like, to really have those really strong relationships. That's the part I go to.
Awesome. We thank you for that. So Mr. Brooks, to kind of close out this question, what advice or strategy would you have for our parents or educators in regards to creating a safe space at home or in the community? You know, what are some of the strategies you use at home as a dad?
Well, a lot of the stuff I use is I'm not afraid to be wrong, and I'm not afraid to let them make decisions that they might be wrong too. So sometimes it's better when you let them lead, so they feel like they're more in control of the situation. And it's hard as a parent to do that, but I think I learn more from them than they actually learn from me. You know, so most cases, I think it's kind of letting up on the reins, letting them make decisions, accepting their decisions, and I guess not scrutinizing them the whole time while it's in action. You know, and it's always going to be a learning experience. So it's easier to just say, you know, all right, well, we'll try it your way, but I do have an idea if this don't work. You know, so I think that's where I'm at with this. You know, so it's all learning. You know, I learn more with every kid. You know, I learn different with every kid, but it's just one of those situations.
Yeah. So, and this follow-up question, Mr. Brooks, you know, you're letting them lead, you're giving them a chance, and you think, you know, as an adult, and we all been there, like, I don't think that's gonna work. How do you stay in the moment and stay true to that?
It's hard. It's hard. But see, part of it is I have to recondition myself all the time to believe that the situation they in ain't the same as the situation I was in. All the circumstances are different. But see, since we've already been there, we assume that we can show them all of these things. But since everything is different, that's one of the hardest things to do, is to watch somebody you almost certain gonna fail, or maybe gonna fail, or might gonna fail. That's a hard thing as a parent, but they learn more from the mistake in the moment than you could ever teach them just by leading.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Brooks, for that response. I'm taking dad notes, trust me.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Oh, man, I appreciate you. So here's the next question for our youth panelists. We just heard some advice from our adults. Do you have any other advice for adults or for the youth in this regard to creating that safe space? And how do you recommend adults do it? How do you recommend students do their part in helping to create that safe space? Because once again, we can't put it all on the adults. We have to work together. So let's start with Shai, then let's go to Asada, and Javen, if you can close us on that question.
advice I would give to the youth is to remember, no matter how many times an adult will not listen to you or not take your advice, that it's always going to be one adult somewhere out there that will listen to you, that you just have to find them. They might be a teacher, a parent, a grandparent, but they're out there. And never just let someone shut you down, because that's not a good thing. It won't lead you nowhere. Just keep trying and keep going. And to the adults, the advice I would give to them is have an open mind. Know that some kids have good advice sometimes, or bright ideas that will be really helpful to an adult or have an impact in an adult's life, So just that's my advice to them, have an open mind.
Yeah, and I gotta, before we go to the next panelist, I just gotta go back to that for our youth that are here, or for adults who really care. That's such a key point, because, it's been our practice for many years to shut youth down, and youth are conditioned to kind of say, man, it's the same old thing. So let's make sure we don't let our youth quit on trying to express their voice. Let's all of us rally together to make sure that doesn't happen. I appreciate that. That was a great comment. So who's up next? I'm sorry.
It's me.
Yep, that's what I thought.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Brooks just said something, and I'm gonna build off of that. When you spoke about allowing your children and youth in general to make mistakes, or even just make decisions for themselves. If they mess up, then they mess up. If they do great, then they do great. That is a very powerful way to encourage youth to grow into themselves in their own. It's a good way to help youth also form decision-making skills and self-discipline. This is also something that Speedy does. I was gonna bring it up actually later, but since we're talking about it now, we can talk about it now. But so Speedy is very big on no, you can do it. I'm not gonna help you. And not in a way that's like, think about a bird's nest, okay? When it's time to fly, then you just get pushed out. And I used to be so uncomfortable with being pushed out of the bird's nest. But listen, I have not always been this articulate with my words. A lot of this is, I owe a lot of this confidence to Mr. Harris, Speedy, because in times because as an adult, I think there's a certain part of you that kind of knows and understands the capability of the youth that you're dealing with. So understanding that there is the capability, understanding that if you decide to make decisions for the youth or hold their hand through the whole way, then they're not going to be able to make decisions for themselves. And that is when I think that's a toxic cycle that starts then, because then you're codependent for the rest of your life, or you learn to be independent later on in your life. Not healthy at all. So I just wanted to say that I think that was very healthy. I mean, that was something constructive to say. Sorry, but so that would be for adults, but for youth, I think that in a classroom setting specifically, okay, so I was not the best student in all of my classes, but in the classes when I was being a respectful student, this was actually more in my upperclassmen years, but I kind of understood, like, okay, the teachers are kind of stressed out too. Let me calm down. Let me simmer down a bit. Okay, they have to grade things just like we have to do the work. So just kind of being understanding of the fact that we're all humans, just as well as I could dish it out to adults, I could take it back too, because we're all humans and we all make mistakes. We all need time to process things. We all have emotions. So just being respectful of that, but also keeping in the back of your mind that you have a legitimate voice and it matters. So yeah.
Yeah, and I just got to jump in before Javen goes and just, I love how we bundle in on this, like we're layering. You know, you go from what Mr. Brooks said by stepping back and allowing students to, or your children to do stuff, and then you go right back to what Mr. Harris said. And if they're not doing stuff, to push them out there, let them go. You know, encourage. And we heard that in the first panel as well. So this is really, I hope that you educators are catching this. This is not rocket science, but it is good stuff. And I certainly believe in it. So Javen, what's your advice to create those spaces?
Yeah, so my advice for youth would be to remember that adults are humans and humans make mistakes. That's really similar to what Asada said, but we have to remember that no one is perfect. Everyone's going to make mistakes. And a lot of times, just mistakes are going to happen. And for adults, you'll never know if you made a mistake. If you never allow youth to share their opinions, or you're not open to youth and they don't feel comfortable talking to you. So it's good to sometimes make yourself vulnerable so that youth can open up to you and that you guys can build your relationship better. And for teachers, if a student calls you out on something, it's okay. Because if a student never calls you out on something, you'll never know if you made a mistake or if you did something wrong. Also, if a student doesn't feel comfortable talking to you, that's totally fine too. Students are not required to talk to adults or teachers. They don't have to. You're not supposed to base their grade off of that. Students, if they feel comfortable, can talk to you, and if they don't have to.
Yeah, thank you, Javen. I mean, once again, just providing that space is so powerful. Okay, youth panelists, here's the question. Can you give me an example of when an adult really listened to you and your voice really mattered, like when it mattered, you knew it mattered and it made a difference, or you was put into action? And I'll rephrase the question. Can you tell me a time when you really listened to your voice and allowed you to, do whatever that was, and it really mattered that you had a voice and it made a difference? And we'll go in this order. We'll start with Javen, we'll go with Asada, and we'll close that with Shai. A time when an adult let you do what you do.
So for me, it was when I was talking to my school about graduating early. It was something that I've been talking about for years now, but I kind of felt like there was a lot of adults who wanted me to stay for personal reasons, and there were some adults who kind of put me down. But then when I went to speak to my principal and my counselor and everyone I needed to talk to, they all lifted me up and they all wanted me to succeed. Even if they personally wanted me to stay, they sat with me, they created a plan. We went through everything I wanted to do so that we can make me graduating early happen. Another experience is working with this group right here. They've definitely allowed me to voice my opinions a whole bunch of times. And it's just really nice to know that there's people out there who want to hear what youth have to say. And if a youth has an opinion or a youth wants to do something, that they're open to helping them succeed in whatever they want to do.
Sure, thank you. Who's up?
Me. Okay. Hold on. I'm sorry. I just had a brain fart, but I'm gonna make something up. So, well, first of all, my mother has been like a pillar in not only being a person that's allowed me to share my voice, but also surrounding me with people that allow me to share my voice. My mom is the one that introduced me to Speedy. My mom knows a lot of y'all on this panel probably, and that's how, she just paved the way perfectly for me. So I do not have any super profound examples like Javen. I'm sure I do. They're just not on my mind right now. But I would just build off of what Javen said a little bit more about our experience working with America's Promise in the Children's Institute. Javen and I and one other youth, Zipporah, who she hasn't been able to stay. But before us three, we kind of we were a part of a couple other convenings, and that kind of kickstarted the formation of this group, I guess you could say. So Javen and I were allowed to, not allowed, but we were given the opportunity to help come up with interview questions. We were given the opportunity to help do outreach within our community and share with friends and peers and stuff like that to build this group. We also took part in the interview process, so our voices were heard in that way, and we took it just as serious as any adult would. But it was just an awesome experience for us to have basically a say in who we would be working with, have conversations about how dynamics between different youth could lead to great conversations, how we think that one person may be able to grow by working with one other person. I've grown by working with these people. So that, and also Samantha earlier was talking about just the flourishing minds of this group and the wisdom that we all have. So just being given the opportunity to share our opinions in this way, being given the opportunity to have all adults be and listen to what you have to say, that has been very good. So yeah.
Asada, I don't know what you were thinking, but you had a great example. That was fabulous because, I know the work you all put in on this, and I know how it was done, and you hit it perfect. You all through this process have done just what we want relationships for youth and adult to look like. So you really captured it, and thank you. So Shy, can you give us an example?
I'm not gonna pinpoint one example, but overall, my parents have really always given me the opportunity to speak my mind and ask me my thoughts on things, or my what I think about something, or how I'm feeling about something. They always give me that opportunity and letting me know, like, you have a voice, let's hear what you have to say. So throughout events in school, or church events, or just little events at home that we're doing, they give us that opportunity to give my input.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. And once again, as a dad myself, I'm sure Mr. Brooks is sitting there, feeling proud because, parents have a hard time, and this is a difficult world we live in. But you said it best, Mr. Brooks. You gotta let go. You gotta give our youth, our children, a chance. So that's awesome. I hope all adults on are listening, because there's a way, no matter what your youth work is, to do that. Whether you're a math teacher, or you're a recreation staff member, or a coach, there's a way to do that. So that was great, man. This next rounds of question, man, this is going to be this, we might not even get off of this. These questions are that good. So we're going to start with the adults, and I'm going to ask you to kind of condense your comments because we're running out of time. But can you tell me what you have learned from our youth, and why it's important for you to, once again, do the work you're doing to elevate their voice? Why is this so important? Because here's the thing, this is a professional development. There's people here that are trying to grow. So if you could give them like that advice, why this is key, then please do that. And Mr. Brooks, I'm gonna have all three of y'all answer this question. What have you learned? Can you pinpoint maybe one thing? But more importantly, why is it important to elevate our youth? And we'll start with Ms. Norquist. We'll go to Mr. Brooks, and we'll close with Mr. Harris on this question.
Yeah, the wisdom that's come out of the young folks, I'm just loving it and taking mad notes. But I think one thing that has really become heavy on my heart is if you're doing work with youth, right, is this idea of traditional versus non-traditional student leadership. And how are we identifying those who should be leaders and those who shouldn't be leaders? and where are those decisions being made? You know, we hit a lot of, when you start to sort of really unpack and disrupt the power system, right? When we start to look at shared power between adults and students, that's when you start to uncover lots of systems and structures of oppression and power and all sorts of other things. So I just would really, what I've learned is really often the leaders who need to be at the table aren't, because there's lots of barriers put up for them, right? So just using your own power and privilege to always advocate for those youth. There are some amazing non-traditional leaders that come and they can do the work so dynamically with just the right platform and just the right opportunities. So I guess for me, that's one thing I just feel really passionate about, that as we think about student voice, that we think about all of those voices, even if it's the voices that aren't always advocating the right way, that we really see them and get them.
That's powerful, Ms. Norquist, because I think sometimes we don't grab all the voices. We grab the ones who are, you know, most likely to be chose, the students are doing well, or the students who talk the most. We don't always grab that quiet kid. And you heard Mr. Harris talk about grabbing those kids and giving them an opportunity. So great response. Think about, you know, grabbing different, unique, special. All our children have something to offer, but getting them all. Mr. Brooks, you know, what have you learned, and what is, like, why is this so important that, you know, as a dad, speaking to our parents and our educators, that we listen and elevate youth voice?
Okay. Well, one of the most important things I learned is I don't know as much as I thought I did. A lot of the experience I had was null and void with the new generation of kids, because they have so much information at their disposal. So I kind of had to accept the fact that I'm along for the ride too. I'm not just driving. So the most important thing is you have to listen to everybody. See, I think what happens is we show favoritism to some, and then the other ones stop speaking. So when they stop speaking, because they feel like they're being ignored. So I have to find a way to channel my energy from one to another, so everybody feel important and listened to, and then that way everybody is a part of the cycle. So to me, it's important because they still building and growing, but not just that, they so important to what I need so I can build and grow too.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That's awesome. Mr. Harris.
So communication. I learned that the way I communicate is not always received in the way I'm thinking I'm giving it. So, for example, it was something in the office that I asked, and I think Asada, it was Asada and another youth to do, and they said, "We don't know what you're talking about." And I had to look within and say, "Oh, okay, let me rephrase it." But many times, some adults have too much pride and they'll say, "Well, you just need to figure it out," or, you know, "You just don't know because you're not an adult yet," or, and I recognize that, okay. But that taught me that I now take that along, even now in grad school, you know, working on that communication and making it to the point to where you don't need to ask a question unless it's more of a, you know, a clarifying, or should I do this also, but not, you know, I have no idea what you're talking about. So that's something that I took and to just be very humble in yourself.
Thank you. So and we have like a little bit of time left. So I do want to get to the next youth question. And we could stay there all day where we were at. But I want to go back to the youth panelists and ask this question. And I want you to, you know, you don't have to think about one time, and you certainly don't have to answer this question just from your perspective. As a matter of fact, if you want to answer it from what you may be hearing from other students, other youth in our community, then please feel free to do that as well. Because this will help inform, you know, hopefully our our audience tonight and how they move forward in elevating youth voice. So what challenges have you faced expressing your voice? And we'll go in this order. We'll go with Shy first. We'll go with Asada, and then we'll close with Javen. So we'll go Shy, Asada, Javen. So what challenges have you faced, trying to express your voice? And because we're closing, I would just ask you to just maybe add to that question, like, and how could those questions have been addressed? If there's a challenge, there's always an answer to the challenge. So let's get started. Go right ahead, Shy.
I would say some challenges I have faced will be completely shutting me down and, sweeping what I have to say under the rug or playing it off like, oh, okay, yeah, I hear you. But then I don't see anything. I don't see a change. I don't hear from them ever again. So I think those could have been changed differently by just, if they didn't want to speak to me about any of what I was saying, they could have just said it to me, instead of making me think, oh yeah, they really heard me. And then just to go back to it, they was just trying to get me out of the way. Like, okay, let me just pretend like I hear her and then go ahead by my day. So, or they could have just sent me to someone else that they know will listen to me. They know actually truly cares about youth and they would hear what I have to say.
That's awesome. And that's a great answer. Listen, if you're not going to listen, find adults that do listen, because we got them in this community. I hear you, Shy. If you ain't the one, move out the way. Y'all gonna get me in trouble tonight. Who's up, Asada? What challenges have you faced trying to express your voice? But then, drop a nugget of how, that could easily or may, even with a challenge, be addressed.
Excuse me. Okay. So I am, sometimes I'm not super confident in my speech only because I don't like when there's room for error. So I like to know exactly what I'm talking about and be completely passionate about it before it gets out or I start stuttering. Now, if I have like the slightest bit of uncertainty in my words, then it comes off as not know what I'm talking about. So my largest challenge has been adults expecting ignorance and like completely kind of like what Shai said, being shut down before I get full statements out. Excuse me. And with that, I don't know if this counts as a nugget, but Speedy, like what I was saying earlier, puts me in positions to where like adults actually have to listen to what I'm saying. So like it's your job to listen to what I'm saying. So with that, it helped me gain more confidence in, excuse me, not caring, because I will clean speak over somebody if they try to cut me off now. But excuse me. Yeah, and I don't allow people to be disrespectful to me at all. That used to be a challenge. But yeah, I'd say just as an adult, a nugget would be to use your like, I guess I'm gonna use superiority as a general term just because adults are seen as superior in general. So as a general term, for lack of a better term, use your superiority and privilege in superiority to pave the way for youth to express themselves in their voice wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Asada. I mean, a lot of stuff, we can unpack what you said tonight. Look, adults, I hope you heard her. If you want to put our youth voice up there, prepare them. I heard you say that. Make sure you are ready. And then when we give you that platform, let you have that platform. Don't be cutting nobody off. And I know I put some bad English together on that. I'll say it that way again. Don't be cutting nobody off. Let them get it out. So Asada, that's great. Javen, once again, challenges you have faced trying to express your voice, and then maybe something that you can drop on our guest tonight that would that could be a help to avoid those challenges.
Yeah, so something that I've seen with me and then like my peers is something that both Asada and Shai touched on, and that's youth being put down, especially in school. For me, I'm blessed to maintain good grades, but I know there's a lot of students, especially now with Zoom, who struggle to get good grades. And I feel from what I've seen and what my friends have told me that the students who don't get good grades are seen as outcast teachers. And teachers always put them down first and don't expect anything from them. Kind of like teachers always expecting ignorance, like Asada said. So something I would tell adults is that it doesn't matter the background of the student because you don't know what happens at home. You don't know what they're going through. It doesn't matter what grades they get or how active they are in the classroom. Each student is everyone's individual, but they all should be treated the same. You should treat someone who gets high grades as the same as someone who gets low grades. And that's something that's a challenge that I've seen with a lot of teachers just not caring for the youth who are not doing so well academically.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Javen, I appreciate you closing us. You know, I'm looking at our title, Youth Voices Aren't Too Little. Youth voices aren't too anything that ain't positive, but I'll tell you what youth voices are. Youth voices are strong, they're gifted, they're talented, they're informed, they're knowledgeable, they're caring, they're energetic. They are all about our community. They're about uplifting. They're about supporting us as adults. So I could go on all night, but my time is up. I want to thank all the panelists for the great wisdom and information and sharing that they gave. Once again, and I'll thank the team for letting me or allowing me this opportunity. And one thing someone said, I think it was Asada, superiority, or adults aren't in a superior position. Adults, if you put yourself in that position, you better fix that tomorrow. We should be in a collaborative position working with our children. And so that I don't get in trouble, I'm gonna be done. So thank y'all. Have a great night.
All right. So now, Ashton again, I'm going to be here to introduce remindful or helpful reminders that are like collage into what's called tips for adults. So number one, start with self. Understand your identities and biases and how they may impact your listening. Number two, listening to understand, not to respond. Number three, provide space and time for youth voice, often in a variety of ways. So that could be through discussion, writing, surveys, anonymously, etc. Number four, don't take it personal if youth don't share right away. Trust is earned and take time. Number five, be willing to learn from youth. Wisdom comes from experience as well as age. We don't expect you to know everything. Number six, invite youth to be a part of decisions that impact them. Number seven, be willing to be vulnerable and share your emotions, struggles, and experiences. And number eight, be honest with yourself and youth. So there should be a poll that pops up in the screen that has all the options listed. Take about 30 seconds to a minute to answer which one is your favorite tip, and we'll reconvene right after. Okay. For people, their most favorite option was number two, listen to stand and not to respond. That's a good one. I personally picked 5, and I believe the second majority picked out. No, that's a good poll result. All right, let's see everyone. Now I'm gonna hand it over to Jayla to go over to explain the tips for youth.
Tips for youth. Don't be afraid. 1, don't be afraid to set boundaries. You don't have to share anything you don't want to share or that doesn't feel right to you. 2, find adult allies and work with them. Let them know what you need and want. 3, there is power in numbers. Connect with other youth. You can help elevate your voice and message. Who can help elevate your voice and message? 4, wisdom comes from experience, not just age. Share your wisdom. 5, speak up for what you believe in. 6, trust yourself, know your truth. 7, your feelings are valid. 8, your voice matters. There should be another poll that pops up on your screen for you to vote. Which one stood out to you the most? We're going to take 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, mostly everyone picked number 2, find the adult allies. Mostly everybody picked all of them. So everybody agreed with all of them. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Ashton so we both can go over the tips for youth and adults.
All right. Here are the tips for youth and adults. Number 1, practice self-awareness and self-reflection.
Number 2, be respectful. Share what respect means to you.
Number 3, try to teach each other something new.
4, come with an open mind and heart.
Number 5, be willing to admit when you are wrong.
Number 6, be honest and trustworthy.
Number 7, lead by example.
Number 8, stay curious. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Ashton so he can go over the breakout room agreements.
All right. If no one knows what a breakout room is, it's just a designated area where you go in and talk about whatever you may need to talk about. So for breakout room agreements, number 1, remember the tips just shared. Number 2, this is not a time to ask youth to teach you or expect them to share, which leads into number 3, this is the time to focus on you. And finally, number 4, step up, step back. Invite everyone to share and allow people to pass. And now I'm going to pass it over to Jill to explain the discussion room prompts.
Discussion prompts. We ask that you take 2 minutes to think about it or write down a response to one or more of these prompts to share in your breakout room. 1, one thing that stood out to me was. 2, one thing that inspired me was. 3, one thing I want to reflect on more was. 4, one thing I want to try is. 5, one commitment I will make is.
showing the responses are coming in, but they're not coming up. I'm gonna just try to stop my share and try once more. Hold on one second. All right, they're coming up now. All right, so we have 83 responses. So I'm gonna slowly just try to scroll through so people can start to see. But I love that people are already talking about creating that space, being open to new ideas. Just because a teen gets upset doesn't mean I should stop listening. The value of listening. These are so great. Develop meaningful relationships. I think that's such an important point. I know I've been so honored to be a part of this process and learn from these young people, but it truly is, that relationship makes such a difference. Gosh, they're coming in so quickly. It's fabulous. Giving students the power to choose, so important. Being more mindful in building relationships. Youth need more opportunities to discuss issues freely. Practice listening for the sake of listening, not for responding. Need to be mindful that being in a hurry doesn't give me an excuse to be short with the youth. May need to just follow up and ask if we can talk later. I really loved the session. It was a great reminder that everyone has a voice and should be heard. So much wonderful, wonderful information was shared tonight. These young people have worked so hard, and it's so great to see that people are really taking something from this. We will also gather all of this information that is in this Slido and share that with you all following this event. And I'm going to hand it back over to Ariana. Oh, sorry, hold on. Not quite yet. I'm going to stop my share. I apologize. We have one more slide before I hand it back over to Ariana. We have the survey. So if you are looking for that PD certificate, we would love to get that to you. And so to get that, Sierra is going to put the link in the chat, but there's also a QR code that is coming up on your screen right now. And if you just click, if you use your device on that or click on the link in the chat, you will be taken to that survey. Even if you don't need a PD certificate, we would love your feedback. It's really, really helpful for us as we continue to plan events, continue to work with youth, and especially if you have any comments to share with the youth about what a fabulous job they did, we would love to hear that so we can share with them. So please take a moment to fill out that Survey Monkey to make sure that you get the certificate to confirm your attendance tonight, but also just to provide any feedback so we can continue to offer these types of events and just make sure that we are really meeting your needs and that it feels like it's useful for you. And now I'm going to hand it over to Ariana.
Thank you again for being here and taking part in the conversation this evening. Just remember that the conversation will continue on June 3rd, so please don't forget to register. And we hope to all see you then, and have a great night.